What's going on, everyone? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, we have something a little bit different and a very special guest. I have Clayton here from Packers Total Access. I'm going to put all of his links down in the description. Awesome Packers channel here over on YouTube. Definitely go check him out and give him a subscribe. Clayton, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. You see, you already lost credibility. You said you got an awesome content creator. They hear my accent and they go, "No way, dude. There ain't no way this guy knows what he's talking
Nope.
about."
Clayton definitely knows what he's talking about, guys. He's with the X's and O's. He knows all of it. Definitely go give him a look. So in today's video, we're going to be going over what's wrong with the Green Bay Packers. And I put a little asterisk on that because we are still only in week 6 of the NFL season. So there's a lot of football to be played. The Packers are 2-3 heading into the bye. It could be a lot worse. We could be the Bears. We could be the Vikings. It could be a lot worse. But currently they rank 25th in total offense, 27th in rushing, 19th in total defense, 17th in both offense and defense and DVOA. And many would agree that there are many issues with this team. So, Clayton, I want to start by asking, what's your general outlook on the team right now? Are you content? Are you mad/worried? Are you happy?
Yeah, I think the answer is yes.
All the above.
Seriously, it's been a roller coaster already. We're 5 weeks in, and I was, after the first couple games, I'm like, I'm happy. I'm going, all right. I think we've got a 10-win team here. This looks good. And then, of course, we go over this last stretch, and it dwindled down to, okay, maybe it's more in the eight win range. And now I'm back down to 6 to 10, which is where I started the season, right, coming out of preseason. But I think it just goes to show how some of us get a little bit ahead of ourselves, myself especially. When things go good, we treat them as if they're too good. When things are bad, we act like the sky's falling, and we didn't expect this with the first year starter and a very young team. I think the youngest in the NFL. So for me, I think I'm content. I think we're on pace with what we were seeing coming into the season. Somewhere between 6 to 8 wins is what it's looking like. Now, who knows? They might be able to go on a run and surprise us. But it's just all about at the end of the year. As we need to know, is Jordan Love the guy? That's the number one goal, right? So
100%. Yeah, the team is the youngest in the NFL, and that was even with Bakhtiari, and we all know that he's basically not on the team at this point right now. So they're even younger. And I was at the same page with you going into the season, kind of the 6 to a 10, 10 being the ceiling. I think we actually talked on your live stream a bit ago before the season started, and we both agreed like 6 to 10 wins. So, they already had two. They had an impressive comeback against the Saints, which a lot of things went their way. And if Derek Carr doesn't get hurt or they miss the field or they don't miss the field goal, maybe we're sitting at, 1-4 right now. And there's an even worse outlook on this football team. But I definitely agree. I think, a lot of fans expect the Packers to be, 5-0 right now and Jordan Love to be the greatest thing since sliced bread right now. And it's just not the case. Like Jordan Love, he's going to have his struggles, his ups and downs. And I was saying this all preseason, it's not going to be all great for Jordan Love. And it's just going to be a process and him building on what, this team is already. And it's a very young team. And there's only a couple receivers that are, I think the oldest one is Samori Toure at 25 years old. So there's a lot of inexperience in that room. And another thing that's really been plaguing this offense and plaguing Jordan Love is the offensive line. A lot of this could be tied to the poor offensive line play, whereas going into the season in week 1, it was a strong point. Right now, it's a weakness, and you're kind of questioning, is Josh Nijman ever going to get put out there? Are they going to change something up? So my next question is, what would be your fix for this offensive line in terms of maybe a different rotation, who and where guys should be playing, and also maybe a trade/free agent signing, anything along those lines?
Yeah, for me, I think that, minus Bakhtiari obviously being out with the knee, I think that was our best 5 that was out there Monday. Me personally, I do. I have a lot of conversations with Mike Wall on the podcast, and he's a former, offensive lineman for the Packers. And he's pretty high on Rasheed Walker, and he's all about footwork. He's all about the technical aspect of playing offensive line. He likes Rasheed Walker. He absolutely loves Zach Tom. Elton Jenkins. He sees him as that enforcer. He likes Elton Jenkins. Now, as he said, and I would completely agree. I would actually say that he's being a little too kind. He says that Josh Myers is average. I think he's below average, but I'm not going to tell a former offensive line that some dumb redneck from Tennessee understands O-line play better than him, right? So,
Yeah.
And at right guard, Runyon's just one of those guys he's a great pass blocker, but as you've seen there, in the pulling duties against the Raiders, he's not a good run blocker. He's just not there yet. So when I look at the offensive line, I think the biggest problem is, just like Mike Wall pointed out to me on my pod, you're asking too much of this offensive line. And an extension of the offensive line, obviously, is the tight ends. and you're just asking too much from them. I mean, you've Matt LaFleur has become obsessed with SIF blocks and pulling guards, and in certain situations that's great. And like Mike says, any a great offensive line can do anything. You can play power, you can play counter, you can play pin and pull, you can play out of the mid zone, outside zone, all those things. But this is not a great offensive line, right? So you're asking them to do things they can't do. And when I see the guard pulling, when I see these double sifts and even single sifts away from the run side, you're losing the hat count battle. And so to sum it up, really, Baz, I don't think it's necessarily outside of Myers, and I hate to be that mean, but outside of Myers, I don't think the offensive line is really terrible. I just think they're being asked to do things that they're not capable of doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like there is certain situations where you're sitting there ending, scratching your head on based on what that offensive line is doing. So when you say outside of Myers, so would something like Zach Tom to center, bringing in Josh Nijman at right tackle be out of the realm of possibility for you?
Man, it's so tough because we've talked about this. I mean, to no end. The problem with that, in my opinion, first of all, I think center, me personally, and a lot of people would disagree, but I think center is more important than right tackle. I think your top tier position there on the offensive line is obviously left tackle, protecting the blind side. Unless you got a lefty like Tua, then it would be right tackle, protecting the blind side, top priority. Your second in line, in my opinion, is the center. I mean, it's the only player that touches the ball every single play outside of the quarterback, right?
Yep.
And on top of that, what we have learned going into this offseason is Jordan Love is not setting the protection on the offensive line. Josh Myers is doing that. So there's been many times, like I think it was either the Atlanta game or the Saints game, where there was a free rusher that came off the edge, and Rasheed Walker got butchered on Twitter for it. And it's like, no, he had to block the wide nine, and that extra defender that's blitzing is on Jordan Love. That should be your hot read. Well, the problem was Jaden Reed didn't run a hot, right? And Jordan Love didn't account for him. And the reason being is because Jordan Love isn't setting the protection. If you come to the line, you identify that, Mike, you set the protection, you're going to know where that free rusher is coming from. And they're trying to make things easier on Jordan. But like Aaron Rodgers said a couple of weeks ago on the McAfee show, he's like, I think it's, and he wasn't specifically talking about the Packers or Jordan Love. Everybody, please calm down. Okay. He wasn't bashing over that, but he's just saying to him, it doesn't make sense that a quarterback doesn't set the protection. Now, if you take into account, okay, this is Josh Myers setting the protection, that's where things get tough. But to answer your question, if you move Tom to center, you erase that problem. However, you're kind of, I think Tom is a much better tackle than Josh, me personally, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to get weak
100%.
at the right tackle position. I guess the real evaluation becomes, is Nijman better than Josh Myers? And I would have to absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, I would say that as well. And that's kind of my outlook at it. I mean, if you wanted to keep Myers out there for some reason, you could even put Elton at left tackle if you really wanted to, just to kind of hold off on Rasheed Walker, which I do believe he's going to be a quality lineman in this league. I just think he's not ready right now. I mean, second year, 7th round selection out of Penn State. He should have went higher in that draft, honestly. But I do believe in Rasheed Walker. But like you said, it comes down to Nijman or Josh Myers. And I feel like Nijman must have something on this front office, because like that dude went from like quality starter at left or right, wherever you need him, in certain situations, to blocking field goals. So, I just kind of wonder what happened there. They gave him the tender to pay him, over $4 million, also restructured that contract. So he has a void year next year. So they're paying him the money, but he's pretty much like a third string lineman at this point. So I kind of wonder what happened with Josh Nijman to where he's not on the field over someone like Josh Myers. Like you said, they play different positions, but
it's one of the great mysteries, right?
Yeah. And I feel like that happens with a lot of players on the Packers, every NFL team, where it's like 1 year they're utilized so much, or they really like them, and then the next year they just disappear. And it's not from poor play. It's just like they're not using them anymore. And it's just crazy to me. But overall, that offensive line is definitely a problem. And I'm hoping they're going to switch something up going into, Denver. Before this week, trotting out Royce Newman every week is just like crazy to me, right? You draft Sean Ryan in the 3rd round. At this point, why not just see what you have, right? Like you draft him in 3rd round, like try to at least break that 3rd round curse, right? Like at least see what you have. I want to hear your thoughts on Royce Newman real quick, because I'm sure just as me, terrible.
It's bad, man. And again, you got to go back to, first of all, it doesn't necessarily apply to Royce individually, but there was many times they had him pulling as well. And it's like, Royce Newman is the farthest thing from an athletic offensive lineman. And the fact that you're putting him in a position to pull, and that's how he ends up on his stomach, right? After the play, it makes no sense. Now, what it comes down to for me is get your best five out there, right? And if this truly is, I don't want to say rebuilding, we know the backlash that caused, right? The word rebuilding. But if this truly is a season where, like you and I are saying, you're looking at 6 to 10 wins, probably closer to 6, the way the team's playing right now, then why not see what you got all the way across the board? Going back to kind of Josh Myers, and this kind of goes hand in hand with Royce Newman. Royce Newman started that one whole season. He played fairly decent.
Yeah.
And since then, he's just went downhill, and he's completely regressed. Is it because Butkus became offensive line coach? Is it because Royce took a step back? I don't know, but when you look at it from that perspective, man, it's tough. But yeah, I'm kind of out on Royce, man. I'm with you on Sean Ryan. Like, you draft him in the 3rd round, and it's crazy because Josh Myers has played really bad. Now, granted, his pass blocking was much better against the Raiders, but it was the Raiders. He takes a step forward there, but you don't want to give up on him, right?
Yeah.
But you're willing to give up on Sean Ryan, who was a 3rd round pick, and he hasn't even got an opportunity. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense
to me. And even in training camp, I mean, Sean Ryan was winning a lot of the 1v1s against players like Devontae Wyatt. In preseason, he looked good. So it's like, how do you just keep trotting Royce Newman out there? He's giving up, 5 pressures a game, a sack, whatever it may be, and not even at least try your 3rd round pick when you're already the youngest team in the NFL and already have super young talent out there that you're evaluating. It just doesn't really make too much sense to me.
It felt like Amari Rodgers. Like,
yeah.
Where they wouldn't give up on Amari Rodgers with punt return. It's like, I felt bad for the guy. I'm like,
I did too.
Obviously isn't good at this. And they just keep putting him out there. But I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's the first thing that came to mind. Is like, that feels like Amari Rodgers.
It's crazy because I was so high on Amari Rodgers, and I was just like, man.
Oh, I was too, man.
He reminded me like of what they could have done with Ty Montgomery. I was super high on Ty Montgomery back in the day, and I was like, damn, like if he didn't get forced into that punt return role and maybe just utilize a little bit differently on offense, things could have gone a different way, but obviously they didn't. And the 3rd round curse continues for the Green Bay Packers. I mean,
undefeated.
It's crazy. Like, they should just trade that 3rd round for someone before the trade deadline and just forget about it at that point.
Bury it behind Lambeau, man.
100%. We're brought to you today by Manscaped, who has taken a step up from Balloween to give your face the cleanest shave it's ever seen. So this season, there's no reason to toil and trouble. Manscaped's new Handyman gets rid of that stubble. Featuring a compact design and next-gen skin-safe technology, the Handyman was designed to give you that smooth finish without the mess of a traditional shave. Get the sweetest treat this Halloween by heading to manscaped.com and using my custom code BASS20 for 20% off your entire order plus free shipping. And if you're going for a bearded look like myself, look no further than the Manscaped Beard Hedger Pro Kit. This trimmer has a rotary wheel which gives you 20 hair cutting lengths with one guard. So no more drawers full of extra add-ons collecting cobwebs. Your Halloween costume may take effort, but beard grooming doesn't need to when you get 20 different cutting lengths all in one guard. So go get 20% off plus free shipping with code BASS20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off your entire order plus free shipping with BASS20 at Manscaped. For a look as sweet as candy, get yourself the Handyman from Manscaped. But I'm going to move on to the defensive side of the ball. So my question for you is, what's your outlook on this defense? Are they the problem? Everyone's very quick to blame Joe Barry. What can they do better? Because right now, I think they're not the problem. Like, they're getting stops. Like, there's definitely stuff to be fixed. Like, 100%, they're not perfect. But when you're looking at when the Packers lose games, a lot of time it's because of the offense, in my opinion. The defense will create stops over and over again, and then the offense will go 3 and out and put the defense right back on the field. So yes, they're going to give up yards.
Yeah. I've gotten to a lot of heated discussions, or we should say passionate discussions. I should probably say that word. In no way, you have never heard me say Joe Barry is a good defensive coordinator, right?
Me neither.
But the one thing I pride myself on is, everybody's guilty of watching the game live and thinking, okay, this is what happened in the game. And then if you take the time to go back and actually watch the game again, play by play, 9 times out of 10, there's a lot of things that happen different from when you were in the heat of the moment, and being overly emotional watching the game. That's just me personally. When I go back and watch the tape, it's hard for me to blame Joe Barry. Like he's put his guys in position over and over and over. Now, granted, you're going to have people that want to snap screenshots of one or two plays where you've got Preston Smith on
The
the
Preston Smith, yep.
So that's, and that's just Twitter being Twitter. And, for lack of a better way of saying it, drunk podcasters fueling the fire on their streams, right?
Yep.
But when it comes to the defense, here's the reality: points per play were 16th in the league, and I like this metric because I think it removes a lot of the noise, a lot of the garbage. I know DVOA is another great metric. There's a lot of ton of things, and I'm not saying one statistic is more important than the other. Everything's important. Take all that information. I think that tells you the real story. But points per play were 16th at 0.328 per play. Okay, last year we were 0.374. So if you put that number into this year's, database, if you will, we would be 24th in the league. So we have upgraded from 24th, right, to 16th in points per play. Another one that I just looked up today, I was going to actually share this too. If you go yards per play, we're actually ninth in the league in yards per play on defense, right? So, it just kind of goes to show you how this defense has improved, right? On the road, we're 11th in points per play at 0.292. So they're playing great on the road, the defense is, in my opinion. Now, last week, it's funny, not against the Raiders, but the week before, everyone was screaming. I'm sure you remember this bad. Not everybody, but, the loud ones. They were screaming over and over and over. How do you have your nickel defense in when they're inside our 10, right?
Yeah. And
then lo and behold, we put our 34 base inside the 10, and Lucas Van Ness blows a coverage where he was supposed to drop as a wheelbacker, drop into coverage and help cover that slant. He completely botched it. So now we're in a 34 base, and you got an edge rusher playing zone defense, much like you've seen Preston Smith out there on Devontae. You can't have it both ways, right? Like last week, you don't want the nickel out there in that situation. This week, because the backer gets burned, well, what in the world is an outside linebacker doing covering a wide receiver, right? Everything happens so quick in real time that, these players, they can't adjust. They can't, there's no time for the defense to audible on the spot. Now, at that point, there's been a couple of times, not that one specifically, that I've been like, Matt LaFleur's got to call a timeout there. And people on Twitter were screaming, Joe Barry's got to call a timeout. Newsflash, Joe Barry doesn't have the privilege of calling timeouts.
He's also up in the box.
Exactly. And remember, the fans wanted him in the box, right? It's like the guy can't do anything right. But, last week we were, like I said, inside the 10. That was the big argument. This week we go to the 34 base, and people act surprised because an outside linebacker's having to cover. That's the numbers game. The only thing bad about this defense, in my opinion, is the players not playing up to their level. All we hear is how there's 7, 8, whatever the number is, first round picks on this defense. And there's all the talent in the world out there, and Joe Barry doesn't know how to utilize it. And then you see those same first rounders dropping interceptions and missing tackles in the open field. I'm sorry that if you're telling me that Joe Barry is responsible for making sure that Jair Alexander, arguably the highest paid cornerback in the entire National Football League, catches an interception, you're not going to convince me that's Joe Barry's fault, right?
Yeah.
So that's just kind of how I see it. I think the problem personally, when it comes to the run defense, when I look at the tape, and you've seen us load the box over and over and over against the Raiders, they actually did it the last 3 weeks, although some people just chose to overlook it. I think the problem with this defense and its run defense specifically is how we draft. And when you look at everybody we've drafted, Kenny Clark, what is Kenny Clark great at? Kenny Clark is a great pass rusher, right? You look at his run defense grades, you watch him on tape, he's not a great run defender. I'm sorry, he's not. No. Devontae White, an absolute Tasmanian devil against the pass. This dude can get after the quarterback. Great pass rusher. You line him up over the outside shoulder of the guard. You put him anything from a 4-eye to a 3-tech, and he will dominate in the passing game. But he's not a great run stuffer. He's just not, right? So I think what you're seeing is the way that they draft on defense is you're looking for high athletic score bads. We joke about it every year in the draft. We say, I really like this player. Well, crap, he doesn't meet their athletic profile.
Oh, 100%. Jaden Reed didn't, and I was like surprised when they drafted him. And it's just like, wow.
And lo and behold, you draft Jaden Reed, who didn't meet their athletic profile, and he's been one of the better receivers this year. He's shown that he's kind of NFL ready. And I personally think that the problem with the Raiders game plan was they stayed in 12 and 13 personnel more than 11, and you're not putting your best 11 out there. You're not going to convince convince me that Tucker Kraft is a better football player than Jaden Reed. It's just not going to happen, right? So
100% not.
taking those guys off. And I know Jaden didn't have a great game either. It's just, it's like you got to play to your strengths, right? And it's the whole reason that Sean McVay, when Sean McVay went to LA and he took Matt LaFleur with him, they got out there and they were trying to do what they were doing in Atlanta. They tried to install a little turbo package. They wanted to stay in that 21 personnel. But Sean McVay, and we learned this on the Play Callers pod, he said, I looked on the bench and I seen Cooper Kupp sitting over there. I'm like, how the hell do I not have my best 11 on the field? Right. So that's why they shifted to 11 personnel. They installed a turbo package with the 11 personnel. They're off the races. They make it to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff at quarterback. Right. So, and his whole thinking was get your best 11 out there.
100%.
We didn't do that against the Raiders. So
no.
I know we were talking defense.
That's perfect. You said that actually, because I was going to flip right back to the offense right after that. And I agree. Like part of being a coach is putting your best 11 out there. And I agree with the whole offense not doing so. I mean, we see tons of Ben Sims. We're seeing tons of Tucker Kraft. And it's like, I feel like both of these guys should not be seeing the amount of snaps they saw against the Raiders. You have different other talent players and other things you could do on that offense. That brings me to my next point. What is your thought on the play calling on offense? Because it's been a really hot topic this week in terms of Matt LaFleur.
I just got through watching the tape back through the third time. So I've watched every snap 3 times now from the Raiders game. And that's the biggest flaw that I've seen against the Raiders was the play calling. The blind play action. How many times are we going to see Jordan Love run blind play action and just throw right to a defender? They've tried to hammer that same dig route off of blind play action. What I mean by blind play action, it's what Aaron Rodgers absolutely hated about this offense was turning your back. You come to the line of scrimmage, Baz, you look at the defense, you get, okay, here's the look they're in. You snap the ball, you turn, you fake the handoff, you turn back around, and everybody is moved. And now you've got to reread the defense, right? Yep. And you kind of take your eyes off of it. They've even gotten him out of blind play action a little bit, and he's still making mistakes. But when you look at the play call, anytime there's 3 defenders on your primary read, you're not going to convince me that's a good play call, right? But the blind play action inside your own 30-yard line, it drives me insane. That's how you turn the ball over and give the Raiders the ball like that, inside the 20, wherever they ended up with the ball after the Spillane interception. Scheming 2 rookie tight ends to come across the formation completely, and their role is to block Crosby.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
If you had told me going into that game, bro, okay, look, here's the game plan, Bass. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have our 2 rookie tight ends come all the way across the formation, and you guys are going to block Max Crosby, right? So you've got to come all the way across the formation. And like Mike Wall said, how you handle confrontation, how you arrive at confrontation determines how you handle confrontation. So if those players aren't even used to blocking inline, and now they've got to go full speed, stop, rebalance, and try to block, he's a defensive player of the year candidate.
He's great. Yeah.
Horrible scheme, horrible play calling there. The speed options we've seen in the first 3 weeks, the triple options, right? And I had to swallow my pride, man. In the offseason, I was like, with Jordan's athletic profile and his quickness, you're going to see some speed option. I'm eager to see if it works. When they broke out the triple option, I was going, okay, this is like the Dayton scene. This is too fast for me. You're moving way too fast before. And you see Aaron Jones literally on his head, right? Yeah. That I would have stopped that screenshot right there if I was anybody on that coaching staff. Like, that's not a good look, coach.
Coming back from an injury, you see Aaron Jones getting absolutely destroyed there. So I agree with that. The speed option, it's like they're getting too cute for certain things. Too much pony package, too much pistol. It's just it's killing me. Like I hate seeing it, especially when you guy like AJ Dillon. Like in my opinion, we should be under center running the football. That's just the way I think of it. When you have AJ Dillon back there, you shouldn't be running him out of pistol or in shotgun when it's 3rd and 1. It just doesn't make much sense to me. If it's Aaron Jones, it's a little bit different of a story. But
something else I seen on the tape too was we were sifting tight ends to the backside, to the not to the play side. We were sifting tight ends away from the play side, and we were literally in some cases ended up with a -2 hat count, basically meaning you have 1 guy to block 2 guys. Yeah. And you literally took a blocker out of the play. And I'm going, I hope that was a miscommunication. And I don't think it was based on how everybody reacted. Now, maybe it was supposed to be a counter play and LaFleur underestimated how much penetration they would get, and he didn't even get to the counter. I know A.J. Dillon's feet didn't suggest that, but I think there are a lot of miscommunication there when it comes to that. Just the play calling, in my opinion, has been bad at best. And you couple that with Jordan Love refusing to take the checkdowns. I think we've ran lead swing lead T swing, which is basically it's all across the league right now. The 49ers are doing it. Miami's doing it. All these, Kyle Shanahan tree coaches are running it, where you basically put a lead blocker out in front of the running back on a swing pass. And every time that they've called it, we've had a +1 hat count, and Jordan has just refused to throw it. And you like I said, the bad play calling, and then you couple in him refusing to take certain checkdowns. That's how you end up with the offense we got right now.
Yeah, I think it's a collection of everything. It's not just blamed on just
Right.
Matt LaFleur, just Jordan Love. Like there's a lot going wrong, and there's no group of that's taking our offense to the next level. Like it's not like, oh, Jordan Love's absolutely insane so that he covers up the bad play calling, or Matt LaFleur's absolutely insane at play calling. He's covering up the bad of Jordan Love. So I'm going to finish this off with asking you, do you see things actually changing after the bye week? Because us Packers fans, we go through the bye week and it seems like a lot of the time, nothing really changes. Do you see things changing? And do you see us winning versus Denver? And that's a question right now. Like 3 weeks ago, it's like, oh, we're smoking Denver. That's a question right now. Are we going to beat Denver?
Man, it's tough. Will things change? They better. Because if they don't change, there's going to be some big changes in Green Bay. I believe that. If you lose to Denver, I think LaFleur is officially on the hot seat. And I'm a LaFleur fan. Like I have liked LaFleur up to this year. And, the other thing that stands out to me is there was a former quarterback that if you mention his name, everyone seems to freak out right now. But he was here last year for the Packers. And he said, we need to simplify things. He said that on several occasions. And when he said it, certain fans immediately said he needs to shut up and run Matt LaFleur's offense. This isn't Matt LaFleur's. We're not running Matt LaFleur's offense. Well, now we're running Matt LaFleur's offense, and things have gotten worse. No one can now blame Aaron Rodgers for changing the play and this and that and all that, right? But I think the answer to your question, will things change? If they simplify things, I think we can run inside zone. Remove the sift, remove the pulling guards. Yes, you can go pin and pull when the hat count is right, but simplify things. Inside zone, outside zone, boot action off of it, and don't be afraid to spread things out. The other thing that struck me last year, you've seen defenses start to catch up with this style of offense. But other coordinators, like out in Seattle, right? Their coordinator, he got there and he said, okay, what do we have to work with? We got two great receivers. You got Tyler Lockett, you got DJ Metcalf. Let's spread it out. And they were running some spread looks on first down and really stretching the defense horizontally through the passing game, and then coming back to the nasty splits and running the ball under that. So you got to be willing to adjust. You got to be willing to swallow your ego and say, listen, this isn't working. Okay, let's get back to the fundamentals. If we get beat, we get beat because our guys aren't beating the guys across from them. And that's kind of what Mike Wallace taught me, is like, you're not good enough to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Egotistical, I guess. You're not good enough to be cocky. Let's try to line up and beat the guy across from you, and don't put yourself in a situation where you're down a hat and you're kind of playing from behind in that regard. So protect the football. That's going to be the other thing. Yeah. If Jordan protects the football coming out of this bye, I think they can have success. So what's crazy, Baz, is we could very well be 4-1.
I know. Yep.
Like you said, we could be 1-4.
We could be 1-4. Yep.
But we're this close. We really are. It's just, like you said earlier too, and I'll end it with that. You can't come out in the fourth quarter and go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, or 3 and out, 3 and out in a pick.
You can't come out in the first half doing it either.
Exactly.
Because that's been crazy. Bad. Yeah.
Because when you look at his second half stats, they're actually pretty good.
They're really good in the second half if you compare it to the league. Yeah.
And here's what I learned today, and I'm sorry to go long-winded, but one thing I heard today and I did not know is, one of the old school West Coast philosophies or approaches is scripting the first 15 to 20 plays. I just found out today that Matt LaFleur doesn't script the first 15 to 20 plays. He scripts through concepts. He says, here are the concepts we like, and then he calls off of that. Man, you're really putting your team at a disadvantage if you're not utilizing that scripting of the first 15 plays, because they know what plays are coming. They can be better prepared. Yeah. There's many former Hall of Famers that played under Bill Walsh. They said they bugged the crap out of him trying to get those first 15 because they wanted to be prepared for that opening drive. I don't think it's a coincidence that Matt LaFleur is one of the few coaches in the league that's not scripting the first 15, and we're struggling so bad coming out of the gate.
That's interesting you said that, because I didn't know that either. And a lot of,
blew me away.
A lot of fans' issues were, the first 15 script is bad. Now to realize that I'm learning it from you right now, that it's not even happening, that makes a lot more sense. So, I'm hoping things change going into this bye week. 2-3, it's not the end of the world. This doesn't define the Packers team. It doesn't define Jordan Love. We got people calling for Clifford. It's crazy to me. I mean, let's just let the season play out at least, at minimum. If things continue, then we can start talking about, other things changing. But as of right now, we got a bye week. We got Denver coming up. If they lose to Denver, things could get very, very ugly. But, I think the Packers could win this game. I think we could then going to go back to 3-3 and then go into a lot tougher stretch of schedule where we'll learn a lot more about this football team. But Clayton, I really appreciate you coming out. Again, guys, I'm going to put Clayton's YouTube and Twitter down in the description below, so make sure to go check them out. Awesome Packers content. Seriously, definitely go check them out. I appreciate you stopping by.
No, thank you, man. It's always a pleasure.
Also, guys, a quick reminder, there is just 2 days left to enter in this signed 16x20 framed Christian Watson photo here. That touchdown dive against the Bears, an awesome photo. And even better yet, it is signed. So if you haven't entered yet, what are you doing? It's completely free to enter. The way you enter is head to pristineauction.com, link down in the description. Register on their website using my sign-up code BAS, B-A-S, at pristineauction.com. That'll enter you in this giveaway and all future giveaways. And I'm doing 2 a month throughout the end of the season. And I have a lot more items to give away to you guys. I'm super excited to give away all these cool items. So make sure to go register on Pristine Auction. Doing so will also give you a free $10 site credit, so you can bid on items such as this or anything you see behind me, all signed, all authenticated. Really cool stuff over there on Pristine. Enter in this giveaway and sign up today.